Well, after a months-long investigation, a teenage girl has now been charged in the killing of her mother and stepfather.
So the Carroll County Sheriff's Office says a 17-year-old was taken into custody this morning in connection with the February double homicide. 11 Alive's Galat Malamed is live outside of the Carroll County Sheriff's Office. Galat, here we're talking about months later. How did the investigators get to this point?
Investigators are calling this a sad and horrific case, saying the 17-year-old turned herself in here this morning, accompanied by her biological father, after the sheriff's office told her they had warrants out for her arrest. As for a motive, that is something investigators are still looking at.
We've got the person that we believe orchestrated this and committed this horrific crime.
The Carroll County Sheriff's Office says that person is 17-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick, arresting her for the February murder of her mother and stepfather, Kristen and James Brock.
We're still kind of putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, but I can tell you what led us here today, and that's the evidence that Sarah killed her parents.
Patrick is charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault. For the past 5 months, investigators worked with the FBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and private forensics labs. The Sheriff's Office Public Information Officer Ashley Hulsey didn't single out a key piece of evidence or turning point that led investigators to the teen.
I believe in the beginning of any case, everyone's a suspect. However, as an investigation continues and everything ebbs and flows, like I said in my press release, mountains of evidence has gotten us through here today.
The double homicide was a shock to the community, drawing attention and calls for justice on social media.
In a world where television portrays crimes being solved in under an hour, the truth here is much more complex. Real justice takes time.
Do you believe that any of the other family members knew about this?
Hard to tell. I can say this, that everybody that we have talked to through the course of the investigation, that are family members, have been nothing but cooperative.
Hulsey says the department's prayers go out to the family, especially the couple's now 6-year-old daughter who first found the couple. Patrick then dialed 911.
A mother and a stepfather will never be able to raise their children and the little girl that was in the home. To me, she's probably the saddest victim in all of this.
The sheriff's office says the 6-year-old is now living with other family members. As for the investigation, that is not over. Investigators say more arrests are possible.
On the morning of February 20th, 2025, 5-year-old Jaylee Brock woke up to a sound no child should ever hear. A piercing alarm echoed through her home in Carrollton, Georgia. It wasn't a fire alarm or a burglar alarm. It was the sound of her father's heart monitor, screaming that something was terribly wrong. Jaylee didn't understand what the noise meant. She was only 5. All she knew was that her daddy, James Brock, had a special device to help his sick heart, and this loud sound wasn't normal. So she did what any confused little girl would do. She went to find her parents. What Jaylee found in her parents' bedroom would haunt her forever. Her father, James, was dead. Her mother, Kristen, was dead too. Both had been shot multiple times while they slept. Confused and terrified, Jaylee ran to wake her older sister, 16-year-old Sarah Grace. Sarah took on the devastating task of calling 911.
Your spawn 31, highest Carrollton Road, 1531 highest Carrollton Road, off of Willie Walker Road, reference to a cardiac arrest. Further.
FC dispatch, house 23.
932, be advised. The complaint is stepdad or just be on CPR.
Reference to a cardiac arrest. Complaints advising that the mother and the stepfather are called to the touch. They think they're beyond CPR and doesn't see anything around them that's suspicious. Law enforcement is en route with you.
5 dispatches. 2 people down the location.
That's 10-4.
I'll be on the result.
49 display. Just so I'm clear, we got 2109D, same address.
That's 10-4. What was the numeric account? 531.
49 dispatches. Anybody else after residence?
Can you have them wait outside? You guys have them wait outside? Yes, ma'am. 10-4.
Location is obviously go ahead and let post 1.
Within minutes, first responders arrived at the small home in this tight-knit community just outside Atlanta. The scene was immediately clear to investigators. James and Kristen Brock had been murdered in cold blood. But the question that would consume everyone for the next 4 months was simple: who would want to hurt this sweet couple? James Brock was born on January 1, 1980, in Forest Park, Georgia. Everyone called him Jamie, and he was known for his incredible sense of humor. He could make anyone laugh, even in the darkest times. Life hadn't been easy for James. His mother died tragically in 1999, followed by both of his brothers, leaving only James and his sister Kimberly. James had been married before and had 4 sons from previous relationships. Despite his marriages not working out, he maintained good relationships with his ex-partners. They all worked together as co-parents, putting their children first. Kristen was born on April 12, 1983, in Rome, Georgia. She had been married to Daniel Patrick and had 2 children with him, Sarah Grace in 2008 and Donnie in 2012. Like James, her marriage didn't last, but she tried to maintain a friendly co-parenting relationship. James and Kristen found each other in 2017. They had so much in common. Both had been through divorces, both were parents, and both had struggled with substance abuse in their past. But together they were determined to build something better. In 2019, they welcomed baby Jaylee. They got married in December 2023, creating a beautiful blended family. But their happiness was about to be tested in ways they never imagined. Around 2022, James started having serious heart problems. His mother had also suffered from heart issues and even had a heart transplant before she died, so this was terrifying for the family. James suffered a heart attack and was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. Doctors had to put a defibrillator in his chest to help regulate his heart rhythm, but his body rejected it, requiring multiple surgeries. Then they inserted a heart catheter through his neck to drain fluid. Finally, doctors told him he needed an LVAD surgery, a left ventricle assist device that would act as a mechanical pump to help his failing heart. Kristen quit her job working in special education to become James's full-time caregiver. The LVAD surgery seemed to work at first, but by June 2023, James was having problems again. Doctors said there was nothing more they could do. His family hoped for a miracle. Somehow, that miracle seemed to come. James kept fighting. By early 2025, his sister Kimberly said he was doing better than ever. Throughout it all, James never lost his sense of humor. His niece, also named Kristen, told us that even before surgeries, he would leave her funny voicemails. One message showed just how sweet James was.
I know you've probably seen that movie Ted with Bart Baldwin, the teddy bear, and how at the end of it, it gets ripped apart, and they sew him back together, and then they pray for him to be, alive again. And in the morning when he wakes up and he talks to him, he's like, I just want to tell you that I love you for something. That way, in case I wake up after the surgery and I can't talk and I'm going, you already know what I'm trying to say. I love you, girl.
But behind the scenes, life wasn't perfect. James and Kristen had their struggles. Anyone who's dealt with addiction knows recovery isn't always a straight path. They had public arguments on Facebook, accusing each other of using drugs and being unfaithful. These fights should have stayed private, but they always seemed to work things out afterward. One major fight in August 2022 led to Kristen getting arrested for criminal damage to property and cruelty to children for allowing Jaylee to witness family violence. It wasn't good, but this was 2022, and both were working to be better. What really seemed to turn their lives around was finding their church, Catalyst Church of Carrollton. Getting baptized and becoming part of this community changed everything. Their relationship improved, their outlook brightened, and everything seemed to fall into place. But there was tension brewing that no one fully understood at the time. Before we continue, if real-life family crime grips you, hit like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and smash subscribe with the bell so you never miss a new case on Fatal Family Network. Sarah Grace was 15 when she started dating a boy named Jackson Spradlin. While Sarah was described as a sweet, caring kid, Jackson wasn't exactly the best influence. He eventually had run-ins with the law for manufacturing and distributing controlled substances, possession of a weapon during commission of a felony, and possession of a firearm while under 18. The breakup was probably for the best, because Sarah was excelling in school. She was on track to graduate a year early from Central High School in Carrollton. She would be the first person in her family to graduate high school, and everyone was encouraging her. But then Sarah started dating someone new, a guy much older than her. Kristen and James didn't approve of this relationship either, and put serious restrictions on Sarah seeing him. The tension in the house was growing. Still, Sarah was set to graduate in May 2025. Even though she'd only be 17, she could start her own life after graduation if that's what she wanted. Just a few more months. But those few months would never come. On February 19, 2025, James posted something on Facebook that now seems heartbreaking. "When I'm down and don't feel good, I find comfort in this little girl." He was talking about Jaylee. Within 24 hours, he would be dead. The crime scene told a chilling story. James and Kristen had been shot multiple times while they slept in their own bed. They were at their most vulnerable when someone decided to end their lives. There was no sign of forced entry. Nothing was stolen. The only thing out of place was one door left slightly ajar. The killer had simply walked into their home and executed them. James and Kristen didn't own a gun, so this couldn't have been self-inflicted. Whoever did this took the weapon with them. The murders sent shockwaves through their small community. A killer was on the loose, and no one felt safe. Kristen's father, Dennis, was devastated.
If it was of natural causes, you would maybe feel differently, but to go this way, it's really tough. She went into the bedroom, and because she, I guess, assumed that my daughter Kristen would have been up by this time, and she went to wake her, and she grabbed her hand, and she said her hand was ice cold, and looked a little further and realized that she was deceased. And she dialed 911.
If there was something they wanted in the house, they could have taken it, and they probably would never woke up.
If there was something they wanted in the house, they could have taken it, and they probably would never woke up. But for some reason, they wanted them dead. And I want to know why.
Dennis offered a $5,000 reward for information leading to the killer. The Carroll County Sheriff's Office remained tight-lipped, saying only that they were processing a mountain of physical and digital evidence. But something wasn't adding up from the very beginning. Sarah claimed she didn't hear anything that night. But how could 5 gunshots in a small house not wake a teenager sleeping in the next room? Even more suspicious, Sarah admitted she heard James's heart monitor alarm going off all night but never went to check on him. That heart monitor would become crucial evidence. It could tell investigators the exact moment James died, helping them create a precise timeline of the murders. After the murders, Sarah went to stay with her biological father, Daniel. Little Jaylee stayed with her grandmother. The family tried to support each other through the unimaginable trauma. On March 8th, a funeral service was held at Catalyst Church. Many people spoke about James and Kristen, including Sarah. Her words now seem chilling.
Just wanted to say goodbye to my mama and Jamie since we never got the chance to. I was so used to you guys always being here to the point that I never once thought to imagine y'all not being here. I didn't have a single clue how much I needed y'all until now. For James, thank you for all the life lessons you taught me and for being the best bonus dad ever. Your heart will finally be healed in heaven and neither of y'all will be in any pain anymore. Although that gives me so much comfort, your fight was not supposed to end there. Although there's nothing we can do to bring them back, we still have control over how we treat people with us today. Therefore, when someone tries to tell you anything, no matter how important it could be, just listen, because you never know when it's somebody's time to go. You could say goodnight and wake up a few hours just to find out they aren't there, despite their joy and their love. So just listen and never take a hug or anyone or anything for granted and love with all that you have in you like they did.
But Sarah's most disturbing behavior was happening online. She started documenting her grief on TikTok with posts that now seem calculated and cold. On March 1st, just weeks after allegedly killing her parents, she posted, "They don't know it, but a year from now, me and my 5-year-old sister would find them wrongfully shot dead in our home, and won't get to watch me graduate high school, see me walk down the aisle and couldn't even say goodbye." On March 18th, she posted a video of herself crying with the caption, "Please send prayers for healing and a break from everything. I'm so tired, I should probably delete later." She posted pictures saying, "What do you mean I can't call my mom? And why me?" On Mother's Day, she called Kristen my ultimate inspiration and my best friend. But perhaps most disturbing of all, Sarah reached out to true crime creators asking them to cover her parents' case. She contacted a creator called Allegedly Reportedly on June 4th, asking if they could make a video about the unsolved murders.
Why would you ask me to cover a case where you are going to get arrested for taking your parents' lives? Y'all, this is Sarah Grace, and she messaged me back on June 3rd and just said, search up Brock case. So I said, Brock Turner? Brock who? She said, Kristen and James Brock. Hold on. They're my parents. And out of nowhere, a random Thursday night in February, someone came in my house with me and my 5-year-old sister, and my parents left them for me and my little sister to wake up to. Technically, it was a Wednesday night because I found them Thursday morning. And I said, not knowing she was going to wind up arrested for this, I am so sorry. I cannot imagine. I will absolutely research and cover their case. Please take care of you always. Again, not knowing, and I covered it.
When someone asked about the murder weapon in the comments, Sarah responded with an emoji showing what weapon was used. She was treating her parents' deaths like entertainment.
She commented, thank you for spreading awareness. She also replied to this person who asked what was used in this crime, and she answered and commented and said, from an investigative standpoint, it would seem that it was someone who knew them, hoping for answers and swift justice. Sarah Grace, the daughter and stepdaughter of these victims, said most definitely was, since they knew the house.
TikToker Sarah Grace Patrick, age 17, reached out to me to tell me that she wanted me to research the case.
So Sarah reached out to me on Sunday, and we spoke on the phone, and we spoke via text. And she asked me to speak on her behalf about the night of 2/20/25. Sarah has confirmed that she was awake the night of the incident and heard nothing out of the normal. Those are her words, nothing out of the normal. But she did hear James's LVAD machine, which is his heart machine that kept his heart pumping. She did hear that alarm going off throughout the night. So those are the two things that she wanted me to share with you guys.
Meanwhile, family members were starting to have doubts about Sarah's story. James's niece Kristen wrote, "Some nights hit harder than others. He's been sleeping with a picture of his dad lately, holding it close like he's trying to feel his presence again. He just found out something no child should ever have to learn, that the person who took his father from him was someone he trusted. My heart breaks for him." The investigation continued for months. Police worked with the FBI and GBI crime lab, processing digital evidence, analyzing the crime scene, and following every lead. The community waited anxiously for answers. Sarah continued living her life, posting videos from the beach just days before everything would come crashing down. On July 9, 2025, nearly 5 months after the murders, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office called a press conference that would shock everyone. Sheriff spokeswoman Ashley Halsey stepped up to the podium with news that would shatter any remaining hope for this grieving family.
I have Sergeant Kim Hope, who's over our Crimes Against Persons unit, who has led a phenomenal investigation and really brought everything together. And then, of course, Lieutenant Jackson Lawrence, who also has kind of been a pivotal part of this investigation as well, making sure that everything's arranged and everything is flowing like it should. So, as you all remember, I recognize many of you in this room that did come out on the scene that fateful day on February 20th. On the morning of February 20th, 2025, deputies with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office responded to a tragic scene at 1531 Carrollton Tyus Road. They discovered the bodies of James Brock, 45, and Kristen Brock, 41, both deceased from apparent gunshot wounds. From the very moment the 911 call was received, a relentless investigation began, one that would span months, consume thousands of man-hours, and require the full weight of the local and federal law enforcement agency partnerships. Today, we can confirm that an arrest has been made in the case. Kristen Brock's 17-year-old daughter, Sarah Grace Patrick, has been taken into custody and charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault in connection with the deaths of her mother and her stepfather. While the case has not remained in the public spotlight in recent months, the investigation has never gone silent. Led by investigator TJ Repetto, our team has pursued every lead, sifted through mountains of physical and digital evidence, conducted countless interviews, and collaborated with agencies such as the FBI, the GBI Crime Lab, and private forensic laboratories. In a world where television portrays crimes being solved in under an hour, the truth here is much more complex. Real justice takes time. Time to ensure that no detail is overlooked and no stone is not turned over. Sheriff Terry Langley, alongside Captain Guy Pope and Lieutenant Jackson Lawrence, has remained committed to ensuring that justice is served in this heartbreaking case. Their leadership, combined with the tireless dedication of our investigators, has brought us to this point today. We know the public has been eager for answers, and we want to be clear. So have we. But bringing forth the truth responsibly and thoroughly is our highest obligation. We are proud of the unwavering commitment shown by every member of the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, and we stand behind the process that has led us here today. Our prayers remain with the families of James and Kristen Brock, and especially with their young daughter who was home during this horrific crime. We also want to extend our heartfelt thanks to the community that has rallied for justice and has never given up hope. The pursuit of justice does not end today, however. It is very possible, because this remains an open and ongoing investigation, that more arrests and charges could be made. So with that, I will open this up to questions.
Has she been charged as an adult?
She has.
And any idea what her motive was that she did the confession?
We are still working with her diligently. Our investigators have been speaking with her.
Sarah Grace Patrick Nonix, the grieving daughter who spoke at the funeral, who cried on TikTok, who begged true crime creators to find her parents' killer, was the killer herself. She had been 16 years old when she allegedly walked into her parents' bedroom and shot them to death while they slept. When reporters asked about when investigators began focusing on Sarah as a suspect, Halsey explained.
It is correct that she was the one who made the 911 call, correct?
Yes.
At what point did investigators begin to focus on her as the suspect?
So I believe in the beginning of any case, everyone's a suspect. I think I told many of you that when we were on scene that day. However, as an investigation continues and everything ebbs and flows, like I said in my press release, mountains of evidence has gotten us through here today. Lots of processing, lots of working with our law enforcement partners to get us to where we are today that honed in on her as a suspect.
When asked if Sarah tried to cover up the murders, Halsey didn't hesitate.
Do you believe that she tried to cover this up in any way over the course of these months? You know, we've even seen some videos on social media of somebody saying, you know, I'm making this message on behalf of the daughter. Do you believe she tried to get people to cover up anything?
Considering that she didn't just immediately tell us what happened, yes. But who knows what's going on in a young person's mind like that. But she has been arrested and charged now, and we feel confident that she is responsible for their murders. But like I said, it is an open, ongoing investigation. It's very possible others are involved as well.
What was the key break in the case?
Just evidence, being able to go through evidence, being able to use private laboratories, being able to use GBI Crime Lab. You know, when you're processing stuff, like I said, it doesn't come back in an hour. So we've been filtering through, and there's still evidence left to process.
You noted the digital evidence. I assume that's text messages, emails. Was there some type of a trail that led you that way?
There's always a lot of evidence. I won't go into exactly what it is because it is an open, ongoing investigation, but we have mountains of evidence.
What about the social media or TikTok? That type of stuff, any of that going to be used?
That will be up to the prosecuting attorney, and they'll work diligently with our investigators to make the case go forward towards trial or whatever they decide to do.
Was that the youngest child that found them?
I believe that, and you speak to this, Kim, the smallest daughter found them that morning, correct? And then she came and told Sarah, and then Sarah made the 911 call.
Where was Sarah?
Sarah was in the home.
No, I mean, in the interim, where was she staying? Who was she living with?
She's 17. She's kind of been out on her own.
Was she out on her own at the time?
No, she lived at home with her mother and stepfather at that time. But since then, she's lived with different family members and kind of moved all over the place.
Did she turn herself in?
Yes, she did turn herself in this morning.
Do you believe that any of the other family members knew about this?
Hard to tell. I can say this, that everybody that we have talked to through the course of the investigation that are family members have been nothing but cooperative. Anything else?
Did you do anything after the murder during the investigation that you guys would use in your
Like I said, we're still kind of putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, but I can tell you what led us here today, and that's the evidence that Sarah killed her parents.
Did she say why she turned herself in?
She turned herself in because we notified her she had warrants for her arrest.
Did she have any previous charges, any previous calls to that house regarding?
Not that I'm aware of, not regarding her, not that I'm aware of.
Did she seem remorseful?
I have not been personally with her or interviewed her, so I could not answer that question.
I'm going to shock
Sure.
her family as well. Did you get any kind of, were they shocked? What surprised?
Like I said, her family's been very cooperative. I can't imagine as a parent her father brought her up here this morning. She turned herself in. I can't imagine what he's going through, so my heart goes out to him as well.
You talked about the family. I know they've been trying their best to keep this in the forefront.
Yes.
I know you guys are working behind the scenes.
Yes.
I guess it takes, especially for a case this big, it takes a lot of time to make sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And
Yes.
you speak to that because they've been seeming like on social media that they were frustrated, but it takes a lot.
Yeah, and we understand. I mean, if you don't work in the law enforcement field, like I said, CSI's kind of tainted us where, hey, something happens, it's done in an hour. This is not the case. I mean, and not only that, don't you want the right person arrested? So that's why it takes so long. These diligent investigators took their time. We've got the person that we believe orchestrated this and committed this horrific crime, and that was played through the part of evidence, and that's not something that's processed overnight.
Do you know where the weapon was obtained from?
I can't speak to that right now. Still investigation. Say that again?
Younger child, how old is she?
She is 6 years old now.
Who has custody of her?
She's staying with family.
Can you speak to like just how heinous this is?
Oh, it's absolutely a shock to our community. Carroll County is a great community. We very rarely have stranger-on-stranger crime here, so I would like to say that we're not a dangerous community. I know that the Tice community that this happened in, those neighbors were really up in arms, as they should have been. Like I said, this has been a process to get us to where we're at today, but we don't know what goes through the mind of a child who wants to harm their parents. So that I can't answer right now, but it is a very horrific and sad case.
Was there any evidence of any type of, I don't want to say abuse, but challenges in the home?
Still an ongoing investigation.
And for anybody, who worked on this case, I don't know if there's ever been any other case like this in any of your careers, or if this is one of the few, but just when the facts, as you say, lead you to this conclusion, is it difficult, or what is that like just as a human, kind of when you follow the facts?
Anytime you work a case where somebody's life has been cut short, James is a special case because I believe, according to his family, he had a lot of heart trouble. He'd had numerous heart surgeries. I believe he may have been waiting on a heart transplant at some point. And to have his life cut short when he was given so many opportunities to live, to me, that's a big takeaway from this story, and that a mother and a stepfather will never be able to raise their children and the little girl that was in the home. To me, she's probably the saddest victim in all of this.
You did mention she didn't turn herself in. You said she was turned in with her father.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. All right. I'll be around after if you have any additional questions.
Daniel Patrick, Sarah's biological father, had done the unthinkable. Bertie. He drove his own daughter to the police station when he learned there were warrants for her arrest. Sarah turned herself in, but only because she had no choice. The family's reaction was swift and brutal. James's niece Kristen wrote, "I see a front row at their funerals as this little bitch stood up in front of everyone and cried about how much she missed Jamie and Kristen, so now everyone can get a front row seat to her mugshot for murdering her own mother and stepfather. I saw right through you, enjoy prison." The true crime creator who Sarah had contacted was stunned.
And then yesterday happened.
Yesterday happened? What happened yesterday?
I learned that Sarah Grace herself, the one that requested that I make a video, was arrested for the murders of her parents, her mother and stepfather. She, was using terms like, "Oh, I think you should post about this because it will be a big story." And immediately I felt like, if I were 17 or 16 and my parents had been the victims of a brutal crime, I wouldn't be thinking about the views someone else could get off of that. She also started responding to other comments on my video. Someone asked what the mode of this crime was, and she answered with an emoji of what weapon was used. So that is now very haunting to look back on after this arrest.
Did you see any evidence at all that Sarah Grace might have been the person who killed her mother and stepfather?
Just as a layperson, knowing that there did not appear to be forced entry, that she claims she did not hear these gunshots, it did strike me as odd as I started researching it more, and I can't say, the more and more I read about it, I did have some questions. So when this arrest came out, I was still very shocked, but it made a bit of sense to me based on the crime scene and what I had heard about it.
Police believe Sarah didn't act alone. At 16, she couldn't have legally purchased a firearm, and the family didn't own guns. Someone had to have provided the weapon. Some speculated about her older boyfriend, the one Kristen and James had forbidden her from seeing. Others wondered about Jackson Spradlin, her ex-boyfriend who was arrested on firearms charges just days after Sarah's arrest. But family members say they believe Sarah when she denied any abuse from James. A family friend had posted messages where they asked Sarah directly, "Jamie has never touched you in any way inappropriately. Please tell me the truth. You can be honest with me. I just need to make sure," Sarah replied. "He would never ever do that. He was never weird like that. He wouldn't even come into my room because he knew I slept naked." So what drove her to commit such a horrific act? Some believe it was the restrictions on her relationship with the older boyfriend. Others think it was typical teenage rebellion taken to an unthinkable extreme. Sarah was described as self-absorbed with a "why me" attitude, which now takes on a sickening new meaning given her social media posts. The timeline reveals the calculated nature of her deception. Sarah had months to come clean, months to show real remorse, months to think about what she had done to her family. Instead, she played the victim while her traumatized 5-year-old sister cried for her murdered parents. What makes this case even more heartbreaking is that Sarah had options. She could have gone to live with her father. She could have waited just a few months until graduation to start her own life. She could have talked to counselors, family members, or friends about whatever was troubling her. Instead, she chose to end 2 lives and destroy countless others. Police used Sarah's own eulogy as evidence of her cover-up. Every tear she shed at the funeral was fake. Every TikTok video was part of an elaborate performance. Every time she asked for prayers or begged for answers, she already knew the truth. Little Jaylee, now 6 years old, is living with family members, trying to heal from trauma no child should ever endure. She lost both parents and learned that her big sister, someone she trusted, was the one who took them away. James's other children lost their father and learned the devastating truth that someone they considered family had murdered him. The ripple effects of Sarah's alleged actions will haunt this family forever. As for Sarah herself, she faces life in prison. At 17 years old, she's being charged as an adult for 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault. If convicted, she may never see the outside of a prison cell again. Daniel Patrick posted a note Sarah had left him before her arrest. "Dear Dad, I love you so much and I don't know what I'd do if God didn't send me to you. I love you and I know a lot has happened, but just know I love you and we got this." Some wondered if this was her way of confessing. Daniel also posted, "To my daughter, I will always be in your corner." The investigation continues as police search for accomplices and try to understand the full scope of what happened that February night. The digital evidence, the timeline from James's heart monitor, and months of careful investigation have built what police call a mountain of evidence against Sarah. This case represents every parent's worst nightmare, not just being murdered in your sleep, but being murdered by your own child. James Brock survived heart failure, multiple surgeries, and years of medical struggles only to be killed by someone he loved and trusted. Kristen Brock gave up her career to care for James, worked to build a stable home for all their children, and found peace in her faith, only to have her life ended by her own daughter. The small community of Carrollton, Georgia, is left to grapple with a truth almost too horrible to comprehend. In a place where everyone knows everyone, where families attend church together and support each other through hardships, a teenager allegedly planned and executed her parents while they slept. As this case moves through the courts, the question that haunts everyone isn't just who killed James and Kristen Brock. We now know that answer. The question is why. What could drive a 16-year-old girl to commit such an unforgivable act against the people who loved her most? Sarah Grace Patrick may have thought she could get away with murder by playing the grieving daughter. She was wrong. Justice for James and Kristen Brock is finally within reach. but the scars left on their surviving children and family will last forever. The heart monitor that woke little Jaylee that terrible morning was supposed to keep James alive. Instead, it became the alarm that exposed his killer, his own stepdaughter, who had been hiding in plain sight all along. Family should be a refuge, but even the closest ties can fracture. Stay alert, look out for one another, and reach out if you sense danger.
Us now is Sarah Patrick's grandfather and Kristen Brock's dad, Dennis Nolan. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. I can't imagine what you and your family are going through. First question, what was your reaction to Sarah's arrest this week?
Well, I'm very surprised. I mean, I've been talking to the detectives since it happened. I have no indication that they were looking at Sarah as a suspect. No less any evidence that said she did it. So I was shocked.
Do you believe she's the one who did this?
No. I think, to sum it up, really, the detectives, the best they could tell me was the evidence says that she's the only one who could possibly have done it. That says to me that there's no real evidence that says she did do it.
We hear that there's a mountain of evidence, but they haven't really said, but their term was mountain of evidence. What did they tell you beyond just she's the only one who possibly could have done it? What did they share with you about why they believe she's the one who is responsible for this?
Well, they never did share anything that said she was responsible, other than the fact that she's the only one, the evidence says she's the only one who could possibly have done it. Of course, they haven't revealed any of the evidence because it's an ongoing investigation, and I understand that. But I know they were pressured to make an arrest, and I think this might have been premature. I don't think they needed to wait till the investigation was over. Sarah certainly wasn't going anywhere. But, she's taking it very hard. She swears by her innocence.
Have you spoken with her since her arrest?
Yes, she called me from the jail the day after, of course, pleading for me to help her get out. And she was just very upset, saying, "Please help me." And there's not much I can do at this point. I don't know what else to say. I mean, she's always been a good kid. I've always liked Sarah. She was always very friendly, and she never really asked for anything. She was a very, to me, she was just an ideal child. She had just graduated from high school. She was very proud of that. She was working 2 jobs. She was doing very well, and I don't understand what could have ever, if she did do this, what triggered it.
If you, during that phone call, asked her if she had done it, what did she say?
I didn't ask her because it was just assumed she didn't do it. I wasn't going to accuse her of doing it. I just advised her to cooperate with the authorities, and we, wait and see, and hopefully get her through this.
And she maintained her innocence on that phone call. She said she's not the person.
She said, "I didn't do it." She said, "Why are they doing this to me?"
And I'm sorry to go back to February 20th because I know you lost your daughter and your son-in-law. But what did Sarah tell you about that night in conversations that you had?
Just that Jaylee, her daughter, went in to wake them up. She came back and Jaylee said she couldn't wake them up, and Sarah went in and found them, deceased. And she called 911, and that's all she said. She's never gone beyond that.
I know this is kind of a difficult question, but law enforcement said that they found it suspicious that Sarah would not have heard gunshots in that home. And that was something that in the beginning started, I guess, it was a red flag for them, and that a 5-year-old would go in and potentially hear gunshots, and I know James had a heart machine, but then Sarah would not, and that they found suspicious. What do you say to that?
Well, I don't know. The house was very unusual, and her bedroom wasn't next to theirs, but Sarah claimed that the TVs were on. I know they were on in both rooms, and I don't know. It did seem unusual to me that she didn't hear the gunshots, but at 1:30 in the morning, she was asleep. I know I'm such a solid sleeper. That it possibly could have happened to me and not heard it.
What was her relationship with James and Kristen?
It was good. It was very good. She was here Thanksgiving with them, and we had a good time. Everybody was happy, and it was good conversation. There was no trouble, and my conversations with Kristen, right up to that night, she never mentioned anything about problems with Sarah, which she would have done. Kristen and I were very close. She was the daddy's girl.
Did Sarah know how to fire a gun?
Introducing Smart
the house.
There were times they were here. I live out in the county, and we've taken, some of my guns and fired them off my deck and so forth. And I believe Sarah partook some of that at times. Her brothers were more interested in it. But yeah, no, I wouldn't say she grew up with guns. No.
At the funeral, another and the spokesperson for the Carroll County Sheriff said that this was something that stood out to her, that in Sarah's speech at the funeral, she said sorry at the end of her speech. And I guess investigators, that was another red flag for them. What do you make of that being a red flag to the people now accusing her of murder?
I'm sorry. She wrote that speech, and I can't speak for her for that. It didn't even occur. That never occurred to me. I'm sure she was sorry it all happened. I am sorry it happened. Using the word sorry, I don't think is any admission of guilt. I think that's a little exaggerated.
When you think about that night and I'm sure it's run through your head a million times over the past roughly 6 months, but do you have any idea in your mind what happened that night, or whoever did this, what happened?
I have theories. I'm not gonna do anything now. I've told the detectives about what I feel and what I felt at the time, and I know they're investigating that, and I don't want to say anything at this time because I hope that and I know their investigation is still going on, and I hope that it all comes out. I think there will be an additional arrest or two.
For James and Kristen, they seem to be, they were churchgoers, seem to be very beloved by members of the community. Is there anyone who might have had a problem with them?
Not that I know of. They lived in Carrollton. I'm up here in Rome, and we didn't see each other that often, but I didn't know of any problems. I know they were very happy. They were just baptized again, and they loved that church, and they were very active in it at the time.
Did Sarah have any challenges in terms of mental health issues or anything like that you were aware of?
No, not at all. Not at all.
And law enforcement had said that she had moved around a bit. Who else was how long was she living with the Brocks?
You know, that statement, I must have been in another world, because that's not true. She was living with the Brocks in that house for as long as as long as they've lived there. You know, she would go see her father once in a while, and maybe spend a weekend with him. But no, she was living in that house, as far as I know, from the moment they purchased it.
There's a lot that's been made about her social media, her TikToks, and I know it's not easy to see any of this on the news media, but a lot of people are saying she's accused of this murder, but here she was presenting as if she was someone looking for sympathy, or even in some cases reaching out to people for views, to have creators and TikTok people, you know, cover this case. What do you make of those accusations against her?
Well, first of all, I haven't seen. I don't use TikTok. I don't know how to use TikTok. I've heard that, but Sarah was upset, and she was, you know, she was a 17-year-old young girl who was trying to be glamorous. She was trying to get her life together. I don't know about anything. I haven't seen anything that says that to me, that she was trying to do anything other than just be a 17-year-old girl. They all get on TikTok or whatever media, and they show off. I mean, that's not unusual.
Was there anything else that law enforcement said during that news conference that you want to push back on? Obviously, beyond the notion that they believe that she is the person who killed the Brocks.
Well, the notion that she was moving around, that she was, they keep saying a mountain of evidence. Well, if they present the evidence, maybe I could have, think differently. But until I see the evidence, I mean, she's innocent until proven guilty, unless things have changed in the law. But they've yet to show me that she's been proven guilty.
And then just a couple more questions for you, if it's okay. For people who have only seen the outside of the home when it was a crime scene, and I know you talked about an interesting makeup of it, but take us inside if you can and just describe what that home was like, where unfortunately this crime took place, and then where everyone else was inside the house.
Well, the house was originally a very small home that had 2 or 3 additions put on it in the back, and it was very unusual the way the bedrooms were laid out. Kristen and James' bedroom was, back in the far right of the house, but Sarah's bedroom was on the far left, and there was, if I remember correctly, there was at least one bedroom and some basic, I don't know what kind of room, just a general room in between. So it wasn't like her room was right next to their bedroom. It was sort of down the hall.
Does Sarah have a lawyer?
Not at this time, no.
And when do you expect to speak with her again?
I'm waiting for I'm sure she's had an arraignment by now, but I haven't heard. And waiting for arrange the bond hearing. If there is one, I think there has to be one. I'm sure she'll probably call us at any time.
Is there anything that I missed that you want to make sure people know?
Not really. I think we pretty much covered it. I mean, Sarah, to me, again, I don't think there's no evidence that I'm aware of that says she did it. And for the police to just say that she's the only one who could possibly do it, that to me is circumstantial and doesn't warrant her arrest. I think they need to finish the investigation, and hopefully other factors will come up, and she'll be cleared of this.
Dennis Nolan, again, I'm so sorry, we all are, for everything your family's been through. Thank you for taking the time to be with us.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good day.
See you in the next story here on Fatal Family Network. Thanks for watching.